Hello, and welcome to Stories Across Borders. Here we discuss stories told across a range of different mediums, books, movies, games, you name it. The only rule is that we can only discuss things in terms of the writing. Anything like acting, animation, mechanics, etc. is out, unless it relates directly to how the story is being told. I am Daniel Radford, author, sinner, and also your host, and today I am joined again by frequent co-host John Kernan as we continue our cycle discussing villains.
Hi, I'm not just smiling so I can stay in control, but I am in control.
That's cute that you think so.
I didn't mean in control of you or the podcast, just everything around me and the world, and usually myself.
Whatever you say, buddy.
Listen, the only time I lose control is when it's time to sing,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
well.
don't do that on this podcast.
Musical episode when? The answer is never.
The answer is fuck you, you aren't part of our karaoke club.
Right. Speaking of musicals, today our topic is, of course, Hazbin Hotel, an adult animated series created by Vivienne Medrano, also known as Vivzy Pop in online circles. A show that I ended up liking a lot more than I expected to, as someone who isn't really big into musicals and doesn't really watch a lot of that sort of more wacky kind of brand of comedy or anything either, and one that is so very fitting for this theme.
It helps that unlike so many things that are musicals, the musicals here are very much an accompaniment and an accessory to the story instead of the main way of telling us the story and doing things. They're
Yeah,
also just good,
the
usually.
songs are mostly very good and they do tie into the world and story very nicely, and I think it helps that it's animated as well. Seeing actual people bursting into song that like takes me out of it a lot more. But that's a whole other thing. We don't need to get into that. We have other things to talk about, so let's get into all that.
I I said this to you already, but I just gotta say, for anybody out there who hasn't really started watching the show or stopped after a couple episodes because it doesn't have like the same magic for them as the pilot did, it gets there. It doesn't start on the same level as the pilot, but I'm feeling fully vindicated and enjoying it plenty now.
Yeah. Also, before I forget, on that note, spoiler warning is in effect. We'll try and keep it to a minimum, but it's a story
We
about
mainly talk
analyze.
about story here,
Yeah,
so
we're doing a show about story analysis. It kind of comes with the territory.
if you're not ready for spoilers, then what are you doing? Go watch it. For almost everybody has Amazon Prime. That means you have Prime Video. Go watch it.
The reason this show is such a good fit is obviously because of the premise. So, a quick rundown of that is that Hazbin Hotel is a show primarily centered around Charlie Morningstar, the daughter of Lucifer and Lilith, and the Princess of Hell, who would be very at home in a Disney movie. She is a ray of sunshine who is in the wrong place. And her whole shtick is that she very much believes in redemption. She sort of sets up, they call it a hotel, but it's honestly more of like like a rehab center slash halfway house kind of deal. And with the help of some other quirky, morally dubious characters, she sets this thing up with the intent of helping rehabilitate sinners so they can eventually work their way into heaven instead, because heaven come down to hell every year at first, but by the end of the first episode, it's every 6 months to permanently kill a bunch of the population of hell. They say that that's because of overpopulation, which is a half truth. The reality is that hell are getting very well. There's a lot of sinners. There's a lot more sinners than there are people who make it to heaven, who are called winners, which is very funny.
And angels Spoiler alert, as we find. I say spoiler only because it is a major plot point, but very relevant to what we're saying right now. Angels are not invincible. They are on average tougher than demons, but that is exactly why they call hell. They are afraid of hell getting to the point where it could actually fight.
And yeah, that is the main reason, especially when someone does successfully kill an angel during one of the exterminations, which sets off all the warning bells and makes things get even worse.
And also, big surprise, the guy who really the guy who didn't care what the very first woman thought and mansplained her out of the picture, and got to be an angel for free without actually having to do anything to prove he deserved it, sucks.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to get talking about him given the theme. But yeah, so that's the general gist of everything. Charlie is trying to save the people of Hell from extermination by redeeming them so they can get into heaven. And the show is based largely around her struggles to A, actually achieve that, and B, also the almost like political tension in a way between heaven and hell that redemption quest is sort of a part of.
Yeah, Charlie is in the very unenviable position of being a really good person who very much is too good for hell, but as a result of the great amount of love in her heart and her respect for her father Lucifer, she very much loves her kingdom and its people regardless, and all she wants is to make things better for them, both because she wants hell to be a better place, but also because she wants the people to be happier. She wants hell to be better, but she also wants people to have a chance to ascend to heaven because she also very much buys into the fantasy of what heaven is supposed to be.
There's some other things that play into why she is the way she is as well, but she's actually not really that important to us today because she's so fucking good. We're here to talk about villains, and being a story that is largely set in hell and also deals with a genocide against hell, there is, in fact, a lot of villainous characters in the cast for us to talk about.
Almost everybody in here is a villain. It's all just a matter of angle and perspective. Even most of the characters we like, they might not be villains to us, they might not be villains to Charlie or the story, but they're either judged as a villain, live as a villain when they're off screen, or are extremely morally gray and probably used to be villains.
Yeah. So it was kind of just the right choice in my mind for a thing to discuss if we wanted a smorgasbord of characters to work with for an episode because just everyone just about is at least a little villainous.
Yeah, we can talk about whoever we want. There's somebody down the street right over there cannibalizing a dead body.
Yeah, there's like three or four characters you could argue. No, no, I got to rule that one out. There's like three characters I think you could actually argue are not villains and never have been, and that's it.
Yeah, that's about it.
So that said, I think we should talk to, and that would be difficult. He's a fictional character. I think we should talk about the main antagonist and his accomplice as well for season one, who is Adam. Yes, that Adam, the first man.
Adam, the king of all douchebags.
Adam, who is, I believe, the only human who got to be an angel instead of a winner when he ascended to heaven.
Pretty much, I think. I mean, well, I guess not, probably not quite the only one, but
Oh yeah, wait,
definitely
Abel
like
is
one of
there
the
as well.
few
So yeah,
because the story makes it very clear there is very much a divide between the angels might as well all be staff at hell, even if they still
yeah,
get to live in the lap of luxury and all that, whereas the winners are the residents of heaven.
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. So Adam is a lot of fun to watch, and his songs are bangers, but he sucks.
He sucks so
He is
bad.
just
Oh my
awful.
God. Someone literally someone literally looked at like the story of Adam and Eve and Lilith from the angle of, wow, this kind of feels like Adam doesn't respect women at all, and then fucking made an entire character out of that one thought. He's such a douche.
He doesn't respect anyone, to be fair, but yeah, he's particularly chauvinistic. He's an unrepentant bigot with a massive ego who doesn't really care about anyone that's not him overly much, but who especially, again, chauvinist to the extreme. And he's just a piece of work. Like he literally openly states that he views the genocide of hell as entertainment.
Yeah, and it's very clear that I mean, where I am at least, because unfortunately I haven't been able to catch up yet. It's been a cramped ass week. But where I am right now, at least, we have no idea what gets you into heaven or makes you an angel. But it is very clear, regardless, just from his personality and the fact that he was the first human, that Adam got a free ride to heaven and being an angel purely from being the first human.
I actually think I do know why Adam is in heaven. I saw some like some comment about it, and I don't know if it's been confirmed word of God or not, but it does make a lot of sense to me.
Is it literally just because Lilith took the fall by eating the apple?
Basically, yeah, it seems like this version of Adam never ate the forbidden fruit, and that means that the fruit which
Oh,
is also the fruit of good and evil, which means he never
you're
learned to
right. That makes sense.
distinguish between good or evil or anything like that. He is a
And it also
pure
explains why
being.
he's stupid.
He is a pure being who gravitates to what he finds fun with no concept of the morality of his actions because he literally didn't partake of the knowledge of what good and evil are. So, as such a pure entity, he got to be brought into heaven and become an angel despite being an absolute shit stain because he has no concept of the fact that what he's doing is wrong.
Which is a shame because if he had just been made a winner instead of an angel, like he wouldn't be a problem. Like he is morally neutral despite being a piece of shit enough that like if he was just relaxed and had no power, he would be out of the way and not be a problem.
Unfortunately, though, he has both a lot of political power as the leader of Heaven's army, but he also is literally a powerful entity as a high-ranking angel.
Really weird about that too. What's up with Gabriel and Michael? What are they doing?
I have no idea.
Wasn't one of them supposed to be the leader of Heaven's army?
I'm honestly not sure. They're probably around somewhere if they exist in this world, in this like version of the canon. We meet Abel later in season two.
Wonder how Kane's doing.
If I had to guess, Cain was probably killed in an extermination.
I bet he
Granted,
took. I bet he took down a lot of angels.
no. Only one angel at first, like the inciting incident that prompts them to speed the extermination rate up to 6 monthly instead of yearly is the first time an angel was killed by one of the sinners.
Yeah,
But yeah, Adam is he's for like an angelic, mythical, powerful entity, literally borrowed from Christian mythology as well. He's very real in the ways he is evil.
yeah. It's kind of funny because in a way, other than the fact that he is lacking complexity as a person, going to heaven the way he has and how he has kind of made him probably the dead person who's retained his humanity and exactly who he was as a person, like the most in becoming an angel. He There's nothing angelic about him besides scale. He is an angel. He has that power. He has that influence. And yet he's just a guy who's kind of dumb and just living in the moment.
Adam is, I'm sure we all knew this person growing up, right? Think back to being in like middle school, high school, and there was, and think of the people you knew. There'd almost guarantee that there was someone in your social circles, whether they were in your school or you knew them through like sports or extracurriculars, or maybe they were even family, whatever. But there was some kid who was wealthier than you or whatever, who had been told all of their lives that they were perfect, that they were great, that they were better than everyone, that they were going to be able to achieve greater things than everyone. And they really internalized all that privilege and all that being told how fucking wonderful they were. And they were obnoxious then and they never grew out of it. You think of running into that person, you've met them, and they still suck. That's Adam in a nutshell.
Yeah, Adam is that person who has all that privilege and everything. Not only is a dick about it and sucks, but also just can't live up to their own hype either.
But he thinks he can.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you're raised your entire life thinking you are that, I don't I don't know what God is in this world yet, since the God seems to be very absent from even heaven and the angels. But whatever God is, Adam is very much their special little nepo baby boy.
Yeah, we don't meet God in season two either. The closest we get is we meet an angel called the Speaker of God, who is kind of like that's almost the equivalent of being like Speaker of the House in the like angels parliament or court or whatever. And she's great. She's very wise and chill, but she's still not God.
I feel like probably the only person who might even be able to really speak on God if it ever came down to it right now is probably Lucifer. I mean, I'm not sure, but if anybody would be somebody who was actually at one point friends with God and hanging out with God besides maybe also the other archangels, it would be Lucifer. Because I mean that's kind of a big part of his whole thing. The whole reason him falling is supposed to be such a big deal is because he was supposed to be the best of the angels, the one closest to God, and the one maybe possibly even the one God was the most attached to.
Yeah, I am curious to see if we meet Hasbin's actual equivalent of God at any point and where they will exist on the scale of hero to villain. I'm expecting neutral as all hell. Huh.
What if what if God is just the same cloud of dust and particles from Futurama that Bender meets?
Oh, that is an interesting thought. But yeah, so that's Adam, and he is the primary antagonist throughout season one. Again, he's just the worst. Like, if you need to know how big a pig he is, all of the Exorcist army he has chosen are women.
They're all women, usually hot in some way, and
Well, they're angels, so
also pretty much all smaller than him.
yep.
They're all small and short, so he can tower over them. And one of his favorites, who spoiler alert again, is one of our main characters, Vaggie, specifically named her that to make it sound like vagina because he was like vaginas.
Yeah, what was it? He says, "You were one of my best. That's why I named you after one of the best things ever," which also hints that he is perhaps creating or involved in the making of some of these other angels, which is also concerning.
Yeah, it almost kind of feels like the soldier angels are a different, more minor thing. Like it almost feels like they're not full-fledged angels and they were just made to fight.
He's built this like he's basically built a cult of murderous angel warriors around him that are all.
Yeah, you know what? Come to think of it, I think they are a separate thing because they always make the exorcists sound like their own thing when they mention them.
I always just assumed it's what they called the army, but yeah, I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing that they have so much in common. Like his little side bitch lieutenant literally seems like
Loot,
she's
yeah,
just she the loot literally just seems like Vaggie's slightly inverted bitchier sister. She looks like
yeah.
it too.
Like we would be remiss to not talk about Loot whilst talking about Adam as well. And there is going to be some spoilers ahead here, fair warning. I know we've warned you about it already, so at this point we've done it three times. Anything else beyond this point, you've brought this upon yourself.
This is a show with many reveals, so there's a lot of things that feel extra spoilery because you get sometimes back to back audible gasps.
Loot is a really interesting example of another very major villain in the show, and that is because as an exorcist, as Adam's right hand exorcist, she is very much drunk his Kool-Aid and is very all in. She is a very emotional for one thing. She's very quick to anger.
Well, she's a spiteful little thing.
She's very spiteful. She enjoys the massacres just as much as Adam, and that is because she is a zealot. She is basically a religious zealot, even. She views sinners as dangerous monsters, as less than human beings that need to be killed for the sake of heaven.
She is it lit exactly what would happen if a hyper aggressive, zealous religious person who styled themselves and already believed themselves to be a warrior god in life, or a warrior of God in life, died and then literally was made a warrior of God as an angel.
And then was basically given license to slaughter the entities she thought as lesser and like a blot and a threat to the good ones.
Yeah, she's literally like if a religious crusader died and then got handed a new spear and was like, "Hey, remember what you were told to do when you were alive? Now you get to do it for real because
Yeah.
heaven says so."
I don't think Luke was ever like alive. I think she was
No,
fallen angel.
no, I just mean she has like what I see as the exact personality that person would
Yeah,
have
yeah.
if they then got to be an angel when they died.
She is all in on all of the propaganda and on Adam's mission and Adam himself. She is dangerous, obsessive, and unstable. And another instance of surprisingly real kind of evil in this very weird, zany show. Like you were just describing the kind of real person she equates to, and you're 100% right. People like Loot very much exist in our reality.
Oh yeah, and one of the things I appreciate is obviously we're going to sympathize for the most part a little more with heaven than hell, cause or with hell than heaven, because that's where most of our characters are. But also, this show doesn't just like butter up heaven and make heaven goofy and silly and fun. We see horrible shit and horrible people down there, and hell also has its fair share of very villainous, very this is a real person characters. And the biggest one we get in season one, where I am at least, is Val.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to talk about Val. I do want to wrap some stuff up on Loot first, real quick,
Oh
because
yeah, go ahead.
I do have the V's as next on my list. Don't worry.
I forgot they're called the V's.
Yeah, it's the whole brand. It's a big thing. But so the thing about Loot, especially in regards to Adam, is that when Adam brings the exorcists to attack Hell, specifically the hotel, at the end of season one, specifically choosing the hotel out of spite because this big meeting where Charlie is like basically going to argue in court to end the exterminations.
Yeah, because in fact, he sums it all up in just a couple, how he feels about it in just a couple words, even though he's not acting angry. As soon as the meeting starts, is so I heard you went over my head to my manager, Karen.
Yeah, he's angry because Charlie tried to go around him. He's angry because his lack of knowledge and how kind of dumb and shitty he is was publicly exposed and a bunch of other stuff in that meeting. So he decides next extermination, we are hard focusing the hotel.
You're you're going first.
The thing is though, they lose. Adam's army loses. A lot of exorcists die because they have figured out at this point that they can be killed with angelic weapons. And we learn that because the angels think they're invincible, by and large, they've never really most of them aren't that good at fighting. But most of
Yeah,
the
because they
people in
never had
hell
to be.
who are fighting each other constantly are really good at violence. So they're getting absolutely bodied other than Adam because he's ridiculously powerful, like crazy powerful. Until Adam also loses because he makes the mistake of hurting Charlie.
Yeah, it's not a good idea.
No, Lucifer isn't there at all until he does that. and then he appears and beats the living shit out of Adam. The power scaling is so visible in this show at that point because we've seen that Adam outranks everything we've seen up to that point, and Lucifer dog walks him.
You do not want to target the only thing that the only man or the only person who could probably ever say he was at one point actually friends with God. You do not want to hurt literally the only thing he cares about because he's given up on everything else.
It's the only time we really see the scary side of Lucifer, but that's not the important part. And again, sorry for the review. I won't tell you exactly how it happens, but someone does kill Adam in the
It
aftermath
had
of
to
that.
happen.
And that fucks Loot up. Remember how I said she was unstable? She goes on a full-blown revenge spiral and is
Oh
just
boy.
is absolutely falling apart and spiraling more and more and more through season two. And she's so wrapped up in how she feels, how angry she is about Adam's death, that she is completely oblivious to her own hypocrisy too.
She's never even really been all that capable of seeing it either. She blatantly is the things she hates about demons.
Yeah, all of the things she hates about hell, about the sinners, about the demons, they are her own personality traits. And I fully expect her to fall and end up in hell at some point, and it'll be very interesting when that happens. But I just needed to mention the hypocrisy because it's such a core part of her character. And I think, and this is purely a prediction on my part, I think Lute is going to be redeemed.
She would make a great resident of the hotel.
I don't think she's gonna like fall and go back to heaven necessarily, but I think she's going to fall because of this revenge spiral
Yeah.
and eventually have to realize that she's been doing to other people all the things that she's been blaming the sinners for. I think that's going to be a really interesting arc for a villain to have.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it because for me, it kind of seems like the ideal way for all this path to redemption stuff to go is a little bit of a best of both worlds things where we have souls who can be good and or not that bad, making at least a pocket of hell a better place, while there are also some people who, if they work hard enough and don't want to stay in hell, get to ascend to heaven.
I mean, we've seen some parts of Hell that are pretty chill. Cannibal Town's alright if you ignore the cannibalism. Cannibal Town is actually weirdly kind of just a nice neighborhood.
Everybody looks like they're having a good time. I saw nothing but smiles. They were blood-stained smiles with intestines between their teeth, but they were smiles.
But yeah, that stuff with Loot as well also relates to another somewhat villainous character that I want to talk about later. But let's jump into the V's because they are three of the most prominent villains, I would say. The V's are a collective of what is called overlords, which are very powerful sinners with a lot of both political and actual power in hell.
Yeah, I think the distinction, I mean, I guess anybody can do something with a soul in hell because everybody in hell just is a soul. But I feel like the biggest distinction with overlords, besides all the influence and everything, is they are the people who can manipulate and have power over and directly own other souls. Because I feel like basically every overlord we see has at least someone directly under their thumb.
My understanding is that basically any demon can make a deal to obtain someone's soul, the rights to someone's soul, and therefore basically the rights to them and have power over them. I think the general route to becoming an overlord is to collect a large number of souls that you have in your grasp. The more powerful, the better. That's one of the reasons Alistair's so strong, is because he has like former overlords like Cusk and probably Nifty under his thumb.
Yeah.
But the V's work sort of collectively, the three of them together as an overlord almost, and they have this like big business media empire in hell.
Yeah, they're the overlord Zaibatsu.
Yeah. You have the characters of Velvet, who is the youngest of the overlords by far, I think, who is sort of the social media person. Handles all of Hell's branding, not Hell's branding, but the but Voxtex, that's their company, branding and online activities and things like that. She's very much the behind the scenes manipulator of public opinion. you have Vox, who is sort of the leader of the V's and the front person, that's why his name's on the company, who is a very charismatic speaker, who is very good at the more overt frontline kind of manipulation and control and actually handling the business itself and things like that. And Valentino is weird in a way. He's almost the odd one out of the three of them because he's the only one whose job doesn't have any veneer of respectability. He is basically the controlling force in most of the sex trade in hell.
Yeah, he is he's the red light trafficker, drug dealer, pimp master.
Yeah. And also on and off lover with Vox. It seems like don't know what the deal is there, but
Oh, well, the deal there is that he's poison.
well, yes. So it's interesting because Val has a pretty sizable like presence all the way through because he is Angel Dust's boss for one thing.
And more than just his boss, he owns Angel Dust's soul, unfortunately.
Yeah. But my basically seasons two, three, and four, from my understanding, each of the V's is set to play a more central antagonistic role in each of those seasons. In season two, it's actually Vox, not Val, even though Val is very present. Velvet is interesting since it seems like she's going to be last, despite playing such a background role. I think that's very interesting.
I feel like her big thing is going to be that while the others are going to be doing what they do and making big plays, she's making big plays too, but I feel like she's starting from almost nothing and she is going to be the one who is rising in power almost in the background the entire show because she just never stops plotting and trying to do more shit because she's a psycho.
Yeah, and she's also, again, she's very good at that subtle behind the scenes kind of manipulation, and she's very good at like seize. I think her path to power is she's just seizing Vox and Bel's power as they fall from grace. We'll have to see what's going
Yeah,
on with her.
and she was the one who found the dead angel and shook hell up, and also almost immediately, without even saying anything and anyone else seeing it besides her close friends Estiel, clocked Carmilla as the angel killer.
Yeah, and spun it to her advantage, and that is again manipulation is definitely her biggest strength there. But the other two have played a more visible, prominent role throughout. I would like to start with Vox because I have a lot to say about him, but and I arguably have more to say about Valentino, who I think is the worst of them. So
And Vox is extremely relevant anyways, because besides the fact that we're gonna get his rising thing, he is very much as he's the TV demon and therefore the closest parallel character to Alistair.
who is one of our main characters here, and I'll have lots about Alistair too. Some of which will probably come up here.
Well, what does Alistair have to do with villains?
Ah ha ha.
What are you talking? I like him and he's funny and silly. That means he's good, right?
No. But yeah, so Vox is a narcissist of a different breed to Adam. He feels the need to constantly build himself up, to have more control, to be more beloved and worshipped by other people. He
Yeah.
is the kind of narcissist who has a massive ego, but it's a very fragile ego that is built entirely on thinking I'm great and I'm powerful because I have all of these people who adore me and worship me and who I have control over.
You know what that just reminded me of? I want to say this before I forget. I'm very sorry to interrupt.
No, go on.
I think I think I kind of just had a revelation in that I think characters like Vox and Alistair are the proof that especially when you are a demon, which are at least in some way beings of power, I think power is very much a trap and more than just a mental one for them and becoming of a prison because from what I've seen, only very, very powerful, influential demons reach the state, but most of them are in a state where they are a demon of a thing, and that thing is what they are and shapes in a lot of ways both their strengths and their weaknesses, which would be a big part of why Vox, the TV demon, he's all about image.
He is all about him. The thing is, though, a lot Word of God confirmed this one. So demons, the shape they take in hell is at least partially influenced by the things they hate about themselves, the things they are ashamed of, their
Right.
failings, the traits about themselves that they don't like, the way other people perceive them. So for Box, who was actually in a big magnate with a like cult following on a TV network in life, image is so important to him and all that, and he also died with a TV falling on his head, so that's why he's got a TV head because it was embarrassing. That's why he looks like that. And but image is so important to him. So much of his power comes from maintaining his image, and because of how fragile that is, he and Alistair fucking hate each other because Alistair is all about fuck image, fuck how other people like the only thing other people need to see in you is fear and how powerful they are. You don't need to be beloved, you don't need to be worshipped, you don't need other people propping you up. Like, it's fine if you've
Right.
made deals to get your power. It's different if you are still relying on other people's to look up to you for your sense of self-importance. And so when Vox in their past was like, "Hey, you want to join my team? Think of how great we could be together, TV and radio," because he thought they were friends. And Alistair was like, "No, I'm a psychopath. I don't want to do the friend thing. I find you mildly entertaining to be around sometimes, but a team? No, fuck you."
Alistair said, I don't have friends. I have entertainment.
Basically. That gave Vox a massive chip on his shoulder, and now so much of his identity is built from himself is predicated on being better than Alistair.
Which is a fun parallel since, there was the old popular saying TV killed the radio.
Yeah. So much of Vox's ego and motivation from the point of Alistair's return in the pilot, going into episode 1 of the show proper, is now built on the idea of being better than Alistair, crushing Alistair into the dust, just outdoing him every way. And he goes into a bit of a spiral on that as well. He has to beat Alistair. He has to be the one in charge of everything, the leader of everything, the one everyone looks up to.
Which is a shame for him because that's not even what Alistair is. Like, they're not the same thing and they're not trying to be the same thing. So he shouldn't even be really trying to compete with Alistair so directly. It's just his ego slash hate boner. Like, you could see, like, literally if they didn't have a relationship with each other, you could literally look at them and see their only connection as being one TV and one radio. Other than that, they're completely different people.
Yeah, Alistair wants power. Vox wants power, but he wants power because of the recognition it brings him. And Vox is our main antagonist for season 2, because of that, because he starts latching on to stuff he learns about what happened with the hotel, about what happened with Alistair.
Yeah, and he has the fan base, he has the influence, and he apparently can mind control fucking Clockwork Orange people.
Yeah.
So
And he starts buying into his own belief, almost a bit like Adam, to a point, that he is great, that he is powerful, that he can take on heaven and take over heaven, and he can do it all to shove it in Alice's face and show him how much better than him he is.
it shows that he really hasn't changed that much from when he was alive because that's such a vapid, shallow motivation. And I don't just mean because it comes from a shallow place, but because it's also very much okay, so if you did win, what then? What would you do after you won? Nothing? What? You don't have a plan. You don't have a plan.
Alistair actually allows himself to be captured as part of this like big plan he has to fuck Fox over and also achieve some other side goals on the side. Alistair spends a lot of season 2 as Vox's captive, just tied to a chair in his office, and he spends the entire time shit talking him, needling him to destabilize the V's because he's playing on Vox's ego and his hate boner for him. And yeah, he's just having a good time. But he does at one point straight up spell it out in the lyrics to a reprise of Stay Gone,
Ooh.
where he basically says, I think this is the words, it's you will fuck it up, you will never fill your cup, nothing you have will ever be enough.
Yeah. Which is probably like the one thing they have in common.
Kind of, I think Alistair is a little bit different in that once if he reaches the top, he's content with that. He just wants the power to be he just wants to be more powerful than everyone else. He doesn't look at that and go, I still need more. I still need to show everyone how much greater I am than that. Fox has a pathological need to show people how much better than them he is.
Yeah, Alistair is very much the pursuit of power without the ego. It's just as a result, as a being of power who seeks power and values power for power's sake, he's just as incapable of seeing the lie of power as the much more simple and dumb and vain creatures like Vox are ultimately, because you can't you can't reach the top. There is no top. You are never the most powerful. You are never untouchable, unending, or anything like that. So even somebody like Alistair, who has so much less hubris and ego, in a way is still trapped by his value and pursuit of power, because he can't you can't really be anything else if that's what you are.
Yeah, that like Alice is not devoid of hubris and ego, but it's coming from a different place where the power is the important part to him, and he has ego and hubris because he has power. Where Vox is hoarding power and chasing it because he has ego and needs to fuel it.
Yeah.
And obviously that comes to a very massive head at the end of season two, which very nearly wipes out a very sizable chunk of hell because Vox goes full crazy and almost nukes them.
I just need to see Alistair be punished at some point for what he's done to poor little Husk. When he made Husk shake, that made me mad.
Yeah, it was just a reminder, as fun as he is, as nice as it is to have Alistair around on Charlie's side, kind of. He's not a good person. He's evil. He's there for his own ends, sort of. And
He's a demon who specializes in completely ruining and destroying other demons. He's
yeah.
Alistair is bad news. He's just fun, so we get to not hate him, but he's still awful.
Speaking of people who aren't fun, though, we can jump back to Alistair because there's more to say about him. But let's finish up the V's because we have one left.
That's right.
And Valentino is maybe the only character in this show more detestable than Adam.
He's just such a piece of shit. He is a piece of shit who has made everything about his existence just about being a piece of shit and being the biggest piece of shit on the block so that you're the one who's flinging all the shit.
Yeah, like we said, Valentino is almost the odd one out in the V's because he controls most of the sex industry in hell, all of the pimps, all of the prostitutes, all of the porn, which is, as you might expect, very big in hell. A lot of their TV channels just porn.
It's a very powerful place to be, peddling sin to the sinners in the land of
Yeah,
sin.
which is why he's powerful. But he is, when you think of like a stereotypical evil, like there's good ones, pimp, Valentino is basically what you see. He
Yeah,
is all about, and especially because of the like soul contract shit, he making it true. He is basically all about you are meat to me. I own you. I'm going to use your mind, body, soul to my leisure, do whatever the fuck I want with it, wreck you until you are spent, and then move along to the next bit of meat I can peddle, which is his relationship with Angel Dust, one of the main characters who lives at the hotel, who is a sex worker and a porn star, and sold his soul to Valentino, and he is horrifically bad to it. Like, Valentino is the embodiment of control and sexual violence. And it is heartbreaking to watch what he is doing to Angel Dust.
yeah, Valentino is the slimiest of slime balls. He's such a piece of shit and in such a ground level way.
Like the effect he has on Angel Dust he makes him feel like he has no self-control, that he is nothing, he is subhuman, that he is weak and small and a toy to be played with by Valentino. Like Angelus says himself, the reason he takes so many drugs and drinks so much and it spends most of his time putting up this front and being off his shit is to escape reality and not have to think about how much Valentino owes him and how he can never really be close to anyone else because of it, because it just he just drags them down into Valentino's web. And more importantly, he has the idea in his mind that, maybe if he wrecks himself enough and breaks himself enough, Valentino won't want to play with him anymore.
Yeah, he literally hopes to be too broken to be his favorite toy anymore. And that's sad. And I'm realizing now that one of the things I found so interesting about this, because you don't see it a lot with characters in Angel's position, is Valentino very thoroughly, very much is the problem in that not all of Angel's performative stuff is an act. I think Angel kind of like really is like a sex-loving degenerate who doesn't mind being a slut, but that adds to the tragedy in that he's a fully developed person and that's not all he is, but it's all he's allowed to be. It In a way it almost sharpens it to me a bit in that like some of the things he does for work are things he could enjoy and he could want to be under his own power, under his own will, but
Yeah,
he's not.
it's all about control. When you have control of yourself, you can enjoy things. When you're made to do those things over and over and over and over again for someone else's benefit, all while they are being violent and manipulative and just gross towards you, ugh. Valentino and Angel Dust, like their relationship, has all of the worst parts of a romantic relationship and a business relationship that are abusive, all rolled into one in the worst ways.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of tough to watch sometimes, but I mean, this is hell.
Episode 4 of season 1 is largely centered around Angel Dust's work for Valentino and how he feels about it, and how Husk is trying to be like help him deal with it because he can see what it's doing to him, even though through the like facade of, oh, I just love this freaky shit that Angel's putting up. But despite having two really good songs, maybe even two of the best in season 1, some of the best in the show, even I would argue, like Poison is a banger. It's a lot of fun, but it is heartbreaking to listen to and watch that. Especially like listening to it in isolation is one thing, but watching it with the animation is it's not easy to watch, even though it is really good storytelling.
Heartbanger is such a thoroughly layered and like meaningful simultaneous like scream of pain and cry for help.
Yeah. And Lose the Baby coming in after is a very nice palate cleanser where Husker's just like, yeah, your life is shit, but if we so's mine, and if we just embrace that our lives are shit together and support each other, we'll get through it and maybe things will be okay, like in the end. And it's like, oh, thank
Yeah,
God they
it's
did that
almost
right
literally just
after.
like
Oh, we needed
like
that.
look around you. Look around you. Everything sucks. We all suck. You're a loser. But you know what you're not? Alone.
Exactly. The fact they had to do that after Poison to give you a palate cleanser in the face of everything else should say enough about why Valentino just sucks.
Yeah, it's oof.
And season 3 is looking like it's going to deal a lot with Valentino and his control over Angel. So I think season 3 is going to be some hard watching because out of all of the villains in this show, all of the terrible people in this show, Valentino is the one that feels the most real as like the kind of evil degenerate person he is, and is just the one I find the most hateable. Like, even when he's funny and you laugh, there's a voice in the back of your head going, yeah, remember what he did to Angel in episode 4?
I sure did love seeing Angel stand up to him, even though I know he
Yes.
must have paid for it later. I really love that. Have you forgotten who you belong to? And it's like, yeah, yeah, I'm yours. You can do whatever you want to me in the studio. Out here, I get to make my own decisions, and nobody fucks with my friends.
Yeah, that was such a good moment for him. And you need villains like that, terrible villains, to push characters into those moments.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really good to see. Somebody has to stand up for poor little Nifty. She can't
I
do it herself.
I don't know.
She's
I don't know if she needs the help actually, to be honest. But um,
I mean, listen, she would have definitely eventually become more than he could handle, but also I bet he would get her into some shit before, because you made a good point about Nifty possibly having been something. I have a feeling Nifty used to be something bigger and grander, and what we are seeing is her a shell of her after being thoroughly broken.
no, I mean she is definitely broken and a lot unstable and things like that. But it is soft confirmed that she was probably an overlord at one point, who got brought into Alistair's control the same way as Husk.
Yeah, and like that probably before Husk, because I almost feel like she is just, hey, by the way, this is what Alistair does to people.
I think a lot of those traits were always there, but here the thing I really do want to learn more about Nifty. I want to know why she has a thing about freezing in front of cameras. I want to know why she became this small little gremlin creature in hell. All these other things.
Her simultaneous obsession with cleanliness and badness.
She loves the hotel because she gets to clean it,
Yep.
and because Charlie's very
She's all
nice.
about
But
cleaning and she's all about badness because boy, every time she sees a piece of shit, just instantly goes, "Oh, you're a bad boy."
yeah, I think she might have been in the film industry, perhaps, or like working towards it or something. I don't know. Well, I think we'll find out more about that in the coming season. But it is soft confirmed that she was probably an overlord, because at the end of season two, there is a thing which a lot of characters are contributing power to sort of save the day. And the only characters who are actually producing power and having influence on it that we see are an angel, Charlie, all of the overlords, Husk, and Nifty.
Hmm.
Cherry is there, Angel is there, some other characters are there, but they're not actually giving power, they're just moral support. But Nifty is actually producing some of the power, contributing to the thing, which implies that she is on the same level as an overlord.
Yeah.
So we're going to learn a lot about Nifty, I think, going forward.
Maybe she'll find the way to win the war on pests.
She has. She's become their queen.
That's so funny. I love it. Like I'm cleaning. I'm fighting the dirty. And they're like, oh yeah, and how's that going? They're winning
For now.
for now.
I love Nifty. She's so much fun.
She's nifty.
Yeah. Okay, we do have. I can see that we're starting to run out in time, but we do have some more villains that we absolutely need to discuss and some just general stuff. So let's do our best, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, we've touched on Alistair, but I think we would be remiss not to at least talk a little bit more about Alistair and also Rosie, who have very much a relationship of sorts, a business relationship. As we've established, Alistair's an ace in the hole. Rosie's
Yeah.
words, not mine. And he's just like, what? So we talked a lot about Alistair already when we discussed Box. We don't need to go too much into his whole deal. Basically, he was a serial killer in life. He was also a big radio personality who fought and climbed his way up in like 20s US, dealing with prejudice, I'm assuming, because he seems to be of, I'm thinking like Central American, maybe Puerto Rican descent, going by the way he looks in his human art style.
And the way he looks when he starts getting more demonic and bigger. Because he gets antlers.
We know why that is. We discover that actually in season two. It's not a huge spoiler. It's actually related to how he died. Remember how I said that the demons' appearances in hell, at least part of that, is tied to things that they dislike about themselves that they are ashamed of.
Was he gored by a deer with crazy antlers or something? Or a
No,
moose?
he was shot by a hunter whilst who mistook him for a deer whilst he was disposing a body.
Oh, that also explains why he, for some reason, eats raw deer for dinner.
There's also some suggestion he might be a cannibal as well. Like we do see him eat a finger, one of Rosie's snacks at one point. So there could also be some like Wendigo imagery going on there, even though that's not what they actually look like in mythology, but whatever. But
They
basically
never look like they do in mythology.
yeah, but basically he just loved killing guys. And in life, he was obviously a believer because he sort of went, I know where I'm going when I die. So I'm gonna make arrangements so when I get to hell, I'm not a little fish in a big pond. I'm a big fish. And
Yeah.
it takes him several attempts, but he eventually manages to succeed on in a ritual, and that puts him in touch with Rosie. And they make a deal, the specifics of which are unclear, but that will allow him to be the most powerful sinner in hell upon his death. Which also, as a side note, tells us a lot about how powerful and influential Rosie actually is, despite how underplayed she is. And then he gets shot by a hunter like the next day.
Her Rosie's power being understated almost helps sell it because one thing you see in a lot of good stories that I think Hazbin Hotel subscribes to is like the truly true most powerful people feel no need to flex or stretch or express that power. They just are.
I'm so curious about what Rosie's whole deal is because as a villain, and make no mistake, despite how amicable she is, despite how pleasant, other than the cannibalism, her sector of hell is, despite how helpful and friendly she is to Charlie, Rosie is most certainly a villain. For
Oh
one thing,
yeah.
she's literally a cannibal and in charge of Cannibal Town. But also, for as powerful as Alistair is because of that deal he made with Rosie, he is dancing to her tune. She owns him. She owns Alistair's soul. They have a song together called Don't You Forget, which is all about her reminding Alistair that he belongs to her, that he is her pet, is her words.
And we all know just how much that bothers him, not just because of who
Yes.
he is, but that is what made him get Husk shaking and quaking was the mere hint at that in
That
season
Husk knew,
one.
yeah. And the thing is as well, like we also like we know that Alistair disappeared for 7 years prior to the beginning of the show. We learn during that song that he disappeared at Rosie's request.
She has told him to fuck off for a while.
Well, he was doing something. He's staying at the hotel. He came back and came to the hotel at Rosie's request. Everything he had been doing up to that point was part of some game that Rosie is playing. And I'm very curious to see what that is all about. I love those subtle villains who are just playing the puppet master of all these other powerful entities. I'm
Yeah,
so curious.
the ones who are so good at manipulation that they won't even show up to the show. There's too many layers of obfuscation between them and the stage for their influence to even be visible most of the time.
And yet you can tell, like, she never seems to feel threatened, no matter where she is or who's around her. You can see that she's like Cannibal Town, other than the cannibalism, is a pretty pleasant neighborhood, especially by hell standards. Like that also speaks to how tight her control over that place is. So she's definitely a much bigger player than it seems at first, and I really want to see how what she's doing ties into the overarching grand scheme of things because something big is coming. There has to be.
It's so funny to do that too after introducing us to Cannibal Town right almost right away, but just a nothing little side tangent. Just a oh shit, look the place where people eat people. Anyways.
Yeah, the army that Charlie uses to fight the exorcists is actually sourced from Rosie as well. It's the cannibals.
Yeah, I just mean like right away, right at the beginning of
Yeah,
the show, it makes
she just
that
passes
nothing
through.
little
Yeah.
cameo. Like, all right, well, moving on.
Right. So I have two more villains as well that I would like us to discuss, but they kind of tie into a greater thing as well. So we don't have to specifically go, okay, this is the Sarah section and this is the Pensius section. I want to talk a bit, and they will come into this. I want to talk about the show's philosophy about villainy. Back almost circling back to the whole premise of the show, because it's really interesting that they do this in a show that appears to be so edgy, actually has a very optimistic outlook and philosophy about bad people. You know, we are introduced to a lot of horrific villainous people in this show, or people who have been horrifically villainous in the past or whatever. And the show's premise, the entire premise of the show is, the entire philosophy of the show is that evil can be redeemed.
Somebody who is bad once or even bad for a long time does not have to be bad forever. That it's never the only thing you are or can be.
So much of the show is basically saying you can choose who you are going to be. In fact, you do
You are
choose
responsible.
exactly, and that's the thing that I really like. It's not just okay, you fucked up, you did some bad things. It is you are responsible for your own actions. If you choose to be unrepentant, you're choosing to be unrepentant, but you don't have to make that choice. There is no time at which you can't stop doing evil things and start doing good things instead.
Yeah, especially in the context of Hazbin Hotel. It's like I think that's part of why Charlie's pursuit is honestly so pure, is because if not that, then what is the point of an afterlife? That's what the afterlife is for. Like if you don't stop existing when you die, then that means you can still change.
It's such an interesting thing for like a show to primarily set in hell be so like positive about the idea of redemption, about making up for your past mistakes. But what I really like is that the show makes it clear that one, every time you make that choice, whether you choose the evil or good action, it's you're making that choice. You never stop making the choice, and you can slide back one way or the other.
Yeah, you never stop being responsible. You're responsible every time, no matter how much you've put yourself in a corner, no matter how much things have changed. You've made every choice you've made the step of the way, and no matter what you do, you are making another choice.
And if you want to be redeemed, you have to keep making the good choice. Doing good in the future doesn't wash away the things you did bad in the past. It just means that you have that the worst things you did in the past, the more good you have to do to be a good person to make up for all the evil you did. If you want redemption, you have to work for it and earn it and do so genuinely. And even then, that won't excuse your evil actions in the past. It just means you're a better person now. And I love that take on it because so much media tries to do redemption arcs, and it's just, oh, they did one good thing and they're good now. So I love this version of it where it's like, no, every day you have to make the choice to be good.
You have to continue to make that choice, and you can always change, but you are changing yourself. You can't change your past. You can't change your actions. Anything bad you've done, you did, and that's forever.
And the other
But
thing,
that doesn't stop you from doing good.
right, and the other thing is, I really like how much evil is motivated by fear in this show.
Yeah, almost everybody we see in here who's like actually evil is afraid. Afraid of looking bad, afraid of being weak, afraid of being controlled by someone else instead of being in control. Something.
Yeah, and that is why I really want to talk about my two favorite characters in the show, actually, Sarah and Serpentius.
I love Serpentius. I I mean, I always loved him, but the second we got to the trust thing and I don't want to live without my minions. Nobody catch me.
You know, he's voiced by the same guy as Adam.
I believe it. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
Alex
Yeah, I
Bregman.
was immediately like, this is my guy. This is my guy. He's me whenever I'm playing an RPG that has your summons and paths. I don't want to live without my minions either.
So Pentius was a villain. He got to hell through inaction at first. It was his main thing. It's heavily implied it was actually Jack the Ripper. He saw Jack the Ripper commit one of his murders and then never said anything about it. And then he went on to kill all those other people. And Pentius still never said anything about it out of fear. And that's how he ended up in hell, is what it seems to, right? And then in hell, hell is a scary place full of people who want to hurt you and who are bigger than you and more powerful than you. It's hell. So he put a lot of effort into trying to portray himself as a potential overlord, as someone very powerful and scary who will hurt you and has done so. But it was all he's a softie.
Yeah, it was all an act. It was literally just a shell to protect him from the bad place he's end up in where he really doesn't fit.
You meet him and like he folds and joins the hotel so quickly after trying to work against them. Like the instant someone held out a hand to him and like gave him the opportunity to be good, he was on board. flipped an
He went all
instant.
in immediately. He loves his little egg boy so much, he didn't even try to go back to any of his villain shit when he was given his minions back. He just loves them.
And it shows because he was terrible at being a villain.
Yeah. And clearly, it can't truly be for complete and utter lack of confidence because he's a pretty good inventor and he's pretty smart and makes crazy weapons.
He's very confident in his intellect. It's himself as a person that there's no confidence in.
He's not a killer. He's not a fighter. He's a guy who sits on a couch with his friends and gets sparkles in his eyes when the cat sits on his lap. He's he's a guy who can't help awkwardly trying to flirt with someone he used to call his arch nemesis just because she's pretty and he could never really hate her.
Even his body in hell, his demon shape, is one is a serpent because he feels like he was a betrayer by not, reporting what he saw, but also specifically is a cobra. He can flare up that frill to make himself look bigger than he is.
Yep,
Because that's
exactly.
all he is doing whenever he's doing something villainous is trying to make other people think he's scarier than he is so they won't hurt him.
Serpentious, more like Sir Repentious.
And interestingly enough, there's a lot of parallels there between him and Sarah. Sarah is a really interesting character. She's like the one of the high up angels. Her name is literally based on Seraphim, which is also her rank.
She's Sarah because she's the Seraphim.
Well, she's not the Seraphim because Emily is also a Seraphim, and
No,
Lucifer is
not the
also a
as in
Seraphim.
the
But yeah,
only one, but she is the Seraphim. She is the big biblically accurate angel, the eldest and most powerful of them.
well, other than the speaker. But she does the same thing a lot, is like flare up and show more of her like true angel self to try and get people to like back down and listen to her and fall in line.
She's also guilty of the same sin, inaction as other people do wrong.
More than that, she's one of the only ones who knew about the exterminations. When I believe Adam started, he came to her with that plan and presented hell as such a threat because they were like all bandied together and becoming so empowered under Lilith at first and then under Charlie later on. He's like, yeah, they're a problem. They got to go. And she is so afraid of what hell might do to all these genuinely good people in heaven that she signs off on the exterminations, thinking that we just have to do it. I don't like it necessarily, but all those people have to die so these good people can be safe. And in season one, she seems genuinely quite uncaring and evil in a lot of ways about like the whole situation. Like there's a scene in this like really massive song with all these different moving parts. It's called You Didn't Know because that's when it comes out that the exterminations were even happening because only Sarah and the exorcist knew that the exterminations were happening. They kept it hidden from everyone else, again, for their consciences, but also maybe a little bit so they didn't catch some backlash. And it
At
seems
least a
like
little
she's
bit.
it seems like she's all on board. And then season two happens. At the end of season one happens in season two. I will not say too much about it because it is massive spoiler territory and I want you to enjoy it as organically as possible, but it needs mentioning to discuss Sarah.
To be fair, even season one does show her regret. Like the death glare she gives Adam when she sees
Well,
like
yeah, but that's because she doesn't want Emily to know because she knows Emily will be hurt.
yeah, but she also does say like, wow, you made it sound worse than it is. And also like very much like shows her thing when she's talking to Emily of like how, she is just that desperate to make sure that there was no chance of her responsibility being ruined, the people she's in charge of protecting being hurt.
Oh yeah, it's very obviously motivated by fear then, but like I said, things get really interesting at the end of season one into season two because someone is redeemed. One of the sinners makes it into heaven.
And we still don't know exactly what makes you worthy of getting into
Well,
heaven. She
actually,
didn't even
yeah, we do find out sort of. It's never said out loud. Well, kind of is a little bit even, but it's never like fully confirmed. But it does become apparent that it seems very likely that the way you make it into heaven as a sinner is you have to do something 100% genuine that is the polar opposite of why you were sent to hell in the first place. You have to do something to that atones very literally and directly for the person you used to be that got you sent to hell. But that turns her world completely on end. And she is having through basically all of season two, she is trying to simultaneously juggle the fact that there is an imminent war with hell because of what Vox is doing. They're all desperately trying to avert, whilst also her crushing guilt because proof has just appeared on her doorstep that all of those sinners that were killed in the exterminations had the potential to be redeemed and ascend to heaven. And she's now going, oh no, I'm responsible for this. I gave the order that said that they could do this thousands
I
upon
let this happen.
thousands. So much, like, even though I never went down there myself and wielded a weapon, all of that blood is on my hands. Like, one of the songs where she's singing about this and talking to the speaker about it, they actually show her walking through hell, like through a field of corpses covered in blood, even though she was never down there. It's all symbolic. But I'm like, oh, that's such good visual storytelling. And her character through season two has instantly become so much more layered and complex and interesting to watch as she is grappling with the guilt. Because even though she is a villain, like you can't even say antagonist, in season one, she is a villain, arguably an anti-villain because she's acting out of fear and trying to do what's in the best interest of her people. But she is still consigning thousands to true death.
Yeah, the most frightening death, because this world makes it clear that this is not a world with reincarnation. When a soul, because the dead people, even though they have physical forms and stuff as demons and winners or whatever, they are just souls. And if they get killed, they don't exist anymore.
Exactly. She spends all of season two trying to grapple with this, all while dealing with this imminent war and the fact that Lute is also there and really wants that war to happen.
Yeah.
She spends all of season two basically on the verge of a breakdown. Such an interesting character and such a very, very fun way to explore where villainy comes from and how villains can be redeemed. It's not an instant you do one thing and you're good now. You see the error of your ways and you're good now. A good redemption arc should be something like what Penchas is going through and like what Sarah is going through and like what so many of the other like denizens at the hotel are going through, other than, Charlie and Alistair for two very different reasons. Depending on the severity of what you did, I guess, but it should be something that that villain has to grapple with for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And that does lean back into that sort of whole premise of redemption is a choice. It is something you choose to do every day. You get up and you go, all right, I'm going to do the opposite of what I used to do, and I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to help people. I'm going to do it for the reason, not seeking redemption, but because I believe it is the right thing to do now.
And I like it too because in a story sense, but also possibly in a creationist sense within the world, it kind of feels like that's the point of hell, and that's why it's not just you go to heaven or you stop existing or whatever. Because clearly, looking at the way hell is going, hell isn't inherently there to punish people, because hell itself doesn't do anything to the people there other than the process of falling and becoming a demon.
Hell itself is a punishment for exactly one person, Lucifer. And that
Yeah,
wasn't because he was evil. It was because he
no.
was progressive.
And in a way, that makes it kind of feel like a real purpose of hell too, is hell is your chance, not even just to be redeemed, but to grow and to change, because they have to live with what they did the exact same way a person does when they're alive. But what the afterlife gives you that you don't have in life is time. You can take as much time as you need to change and get better if that's what you want. One of the things that makes redemption and change so hard for people in life is being mortal. And there's different ways in that it's really hard to redeem yourself in hell, because you're surrounded by other bad people doing bad things and bad things happening all the time. But also, you have as much time as you need, whereas you're on the clock to try to be a better person when you're alive and to really feel like you've changed and gotten past what you did. And there are a lot of people who try and straight up just don't make it before they die.
Yeah, well said. Hazbin is on those shows, but I feel like it does. I mean, it's got a massive fan base, but I think a lot of people skip out on it because they look at it and go, "Oh, it's just gonna be edgy humor," or "Oh, the fan base is a bit rabid and cringe," and kind of is. Not gonna lie.
What fan base isn't?
And I'm not gonna claim it's a perfect show with like the like god tier writing necessarily. You know, there is some stuff in there that's handled kind of not as well as it could be. There's some stuff in there that is a little cringe, but the actual message of the show and the way the characters are written in relation to that theme and that message is genuinely beautiful work. So I do highly recommend it, and I do think even if you think it's not for you, I would say give it a shot because I didn't think it was for me either. And then I watched it on a whim, and as someone who didn't really love the pilot that much, I thought it was kind of okay. I watched this show, and now I'm like, no, it's really, really good. Is it gonna like be breaking into my top 10 list? Probably not. But that's because I love that list. It's not because Has-Been is bad.
And also at this point that there's so many really good things out there that we really like that top 10 list is almost like ironclad because
Yeah.
at this point there's 100 things that aren't in there but are still really, really good.
Yeah, it is a show that does a fantastic job of exploring its core theme with compelling sort of central characters who are fascinating and fun and fucked up in all sorts of different ways. And I think, yeah, just highly recommend giving it a shot. We have gone on for a while though, because that expansive cast meant we had of villains meant we had a lot to talk about in an episode focused on villains. So I think we can probably leave that there for now. So if you guys are listening to this on my website, you can also find these episodes on Google Podcast. No, that's not a thing anymore. I keep doing that on YouTube or Apple Podcast, which is what I meant to say that first time, on Spotify, Podbean, all that. And if you're listening to us on one of those places, you can also find these episodes on my website, radfordwrites.com, where you can also find all my other projects, really, blogs and articles, stories, poetry, my books, Fixation. Season 2 is coming, I promise. And plenty more collaboration with John, who you can find streaming on YouTube and Twitch as Sephir, Sephear.
Yeah.
Until then, we will see you guys later. Be good, don't kill too many people, and if you do, be very sorry about it later.
Yeah, and we'll see you in hell.